Yes, welcome to the Sativa Blues Hub. We are here and streaming, and we're gonna check on some sativa buds. Sativa buds, yes. Russian doll, we're gonna smoke some and jam some. So as you can see, we go to our camera mode section. It has a light section. Here are the buds. Focus. Nice, nice. So as you can see, there are nicely white, milky white harvested on top, and we're gonna smoke some bud and have a jam. Set up our screen right. Yes. Gonna invite a friend. So a little jam, a little smoke. This is the texture of the paper. I should watch on this screen. Nice texture. So do chill with me, have a roll, make yourself a filter. Let's check with the flashlight. And make a picture. It's a labo, eh? It's a labo. We're gonna take a higher shot. And zoom. Welcome to the Sativa Blues Labo, where we check our buds before we smoke them. Look at that. That's nice, eh? Sativa Blues Labo. Nice buds going in the joint, and then we're gonna have a jam. So what else is up today? We could go to a video or some more doom porn, but we are gonna create our own little haven. And as you can see, this is just the Nick Space stream, so there's a lot of void places and bullshit going on. It's just a stream of a guy getting high and having fun with it. Smoke some bud. So let's zoom in, go in closer. Now you can see the trichomes quite nicely. Let's see if we can get any closer yet. Even touching. Now pull back a little. Now you can see the trichomes clearly. It's a neat little toy. Yes, yes. Very sensitive. Very sensitive. Let's keep rolling. And I should make myself a coffee too before I get to the jam. Yeah. Let's check on the joint. See if that works. Hard to focus. No. Nice little reefer. I do like my tobacco in my reefer. No, don't like to smoke pure. Yes, yes. Roll it shut. See if you can get some finger action. Now we'll burn off this tip. Need something harder to tap. Get in the crumbles. Yes. And smoke. Back to the... Oh. I should focus here. Yes. Pass the touchy on the left hand side. Is live anno 2017, eh?
Just de stad geworden. Just de stad geworden.
So we'll discuss the sativa Russian doll. It is a sativa that activates you. Very nice. We'll make some mocha coffee. Mocha. Goed, hè?
Dat is ook beter dan het beste. Shit. Maar kijk naar die plan. Hij is mooi. Nu versta je hoe die kleine ding staat daar gewoon aan zijn werk daar binnen. Hè? Dat moet dan dat doen, dat gaat er niet anders. Hè?
Making some coffee. Yes. The good life. So we're in here. It's still quite cold outside. As you can see, the garden is still like in a bit of winter mode. We are breaking up nice temperatures today. Not much heating is needed. So I'm gonna share the stream with somebody. Nobody's watching at the moment. So I'm gonna copy this link. Waiting for some more coffee. So I might do all the Russian doll this afternoon. It's not much left. Smoke a bunch of Russian doll and get active. So I'm gonna put some more butt under the cam. Oh, watch out for close up. Yes, close up. I do need to focus on the other screen. That's a nice picture. So we're gonna smoke a whole lot of Russian doll. Tonight, today, this afternoon, and have a jam. So we are taking some crazy pictures with our nicely paper background. That's good. Switch to another screen again. Oh yes, not this one. I'm gonna close that. Yes, this should do. So now we're gonna pour some coffee, get my coffee going.
Is dat die dieren?
Ja. Berzot.
Moest je die ding gebruiken en kijken naar je chakras? Hoe je zo en zegt.
Ja.
Hè? Wat dat er gebeurt naar je nora of niet?
Ja, al die klanken, wat dat doet onder de ding.
Ja, wat is dat?
Ja.
Dan moet je vreemd naar Skyper komen. Wat toch? Dat je op wat kan zien, weet je het niet? Weet je wel verder film?
Ze moeten het wat
Je moet heel te bewust doen.
Ze moeten het wat die eronder reageert, hè.
Hoe doe je dat?
En wat, het wat de cliënt die eronder reageert.
Voilà.
Like water of het dan maar...
Toen kunnen we verder hoor.
Ja, ik zeg labo, hè. The define labo, yes, yes. Ja, wil je hier koffie in? Ja.
Jack.
burning. Er is geen plaats voor een beeld. Of wat hij hier komt zitten.
Ik moet zeggen dat ik bij de gast
So we have a guest today. It's Snowblows Records. Yes, yes. From yeah, from before. Crazy dude. Walking around naked in town, shit like that.
Try to figure out what's in the roof and shit.
Yes, totally insane. Yes, like me. That's why we are stuck together now.
Stuck together and no, that's why we don't have a job.
Yeah, no, it's the other way around. We don't have a job because we are. Yeah.
How you say it?
Ja, omdat we te stupid zijn voor een job.
We too stupid.
Ja, ja, ja. Hele Hans, zot. We are totally insane, yes. And
Nobody's watching.
and there is one watching.
One watching.
So we have one more needed to play cards. Yes. One more person needed to play cards. Yes. Oh, poker. Yeah, we are trying to expand the channel, so do invite your friends and vriendinnetjes. And other shit. There is somebody from Holland sometimes coming to the jam. So, and otherwise most people are occupied that I know. And I will keep the channel expanding and exploding. Yeah, we are. This is the club that has no friends. We are all without friends. No friends. No. The no friend zone. So this is just the Sativa hub.
No
For people who are on the run, and who need some nice kufu, maybe.
Nice kufu.
So we're gonna keep expanding that as well.
We have also another place, another jam room, but it's still secret.
Let's do some smoking. Let's do some jamming too. But I wanna get high, what about you? There ain't nothing else that matter anymore, whatever you do. Let's smoke.
Een applaus geven. Zo echt, ja, kijk, moet u nou produceren, niet dat de no friends hebben. Wanneer, we don't have, hoe noem je dat? Die zo het volk heb je al.
Ja, this is all natural.
We don't have personeel, hoe noem je dat?
Staff. We don't have staff. We need staff.
We need
Yes.
staff. That's what we need. We sit here doing it, huh?
We need a whole big staff and
stuff and a whole lot of other things. That's why we're still looking for big investors. Huh?
yes.
We're looking for.
That's all coming
all
this
that,
year.
all coming
In the garden below me. Now you see the garden is below me, We're gonna do some nice. It's March now, by the way. So in the next 2 weeks, we will be working down the garden, and
All kind of things
you
to
can
help
you can run around in the garden, and then you will see the garden is live as well. It's incredible. This is not fake. Nothing is fake. We are just in our hub, and the bubble, and it's just us. We're stuck.
We're just gonna look down somewhere then maybe like they do.
Let's
This
take
the
some.
whole time.
Let's take some fresh air. Let's take
Yeah,
some fresh air.
let's go to the car. We need oxygen. It's
We need oxygen. Yes,
it's
we need
important
oxygen.
for the brain.
We need oxygen. We need to think of an idea.
And release the. Correct.
It's for my own fun.
It's for the own fun.
It's for my own fun. Oh, we're back.
Reloaded.
Yes, when everything is free enough, we will run around naked, and when some chicks are around, we'll definitely run around naked.
So bring us some chicks if it is possible.
No,
And the staff, no, that was bullshit.
no chicks in the house.
No
No
chicks.
chicks in the
Chicken
house.
free.
Chicken free, yes.
We don't eat our friends' life or.
Instead, the only female that comes in here is called Sativa, or Indica, or Diralis. So when you have that name, you can come in.
With that name.
And
Official.
so official is well, yeah, smoke butts and smoke and grow and make videos on Sativa Blues, and the next space is spacey. We just go space out here. We space out. So if I want to go to a YouTube thingy, I just check a new window, open it.
Like you said before, it's gonna explode.
No, nothing needs to explode.
Nothing needs to explode, but
So
need to be chill.
just chill, yes.
Enough explosions already around us.
Alright, YouTube, did you watch Trump's speech? I did. I watched the whole thing from start to finish. And it was legendary. No, this is a Trump. If you looked out onto the crowd and you saw poor Nancy Pelosi's face, the reason she looked uncomfortable, like she was about to pass out or break out in a sweat, had nothing to do with the fact that she doesn't personally like Trump. That's on the back burner at the moment. I think it had more to do with the political prospects of her actual party. Because watching what Trump did tonight was like watching someone who you completely and utterly discounted suddenly win something. Somebody who comes totally from behind and accomplishes something you didn't even think within their physical realm of possibility. The Democrats and the media and many others, for some time now, have portrayed Trump as utterly off-kilter, incapable of following a script, incapable of encouraging unity, incapable really of doing much of anything other than being Adolf Hitler, or so they claim all the time. Tonight, though, we saw a Trump that delivered a speech that was at least as good as anything Reagan ever did in his more lucid moments, possibly better than much of it, and is probably the greatest political speech we've seen since the 1980s, honestly. I mean that. Herbert Walker never delivered a speech that good. George W. never did. Bill Clinton, I guess, kind of came close at times, but not quite. Obama's the other only significant speaker that we've had in the last few decades. And even he, again, reverts to wedge issues in most of what he says, or at least he began to very shortly after being elected. His debating skills were good. Trump's were maybe less so. But what Trump did tonight is call for unity, tell people essentially a new chapter has begun, it's time to stop thinking small and it's time to start thinking large. We're not warmongers. I don't have a problem with other countries. I just ask that they be fair. I don't have a problem with immigrants. I just ask that they be legal. And essentially laid waste to most of the arguments that people were making about why he was supposedly a bad person. And he did it in an hour. He did it seamlessly. Yeah, I don't think a lot of people expected that. Even a lot of Trump fans thought he was off-kilter. Oh, yeah, he speaks off the cuff. And so sometimes he makes mistakes. He didn't make any mistakes here. His delivery was virtually perfect. What he said was virtually perfect. There was one moment at the very end of the speech. I wonder if you caught this, where he waved his hand over toward...
Cut. Oh, that's the sativa.
So we don't give a fuck about Trump. Trump can just nuke the hell out of everybody. We just gonna roll another one.
You need to really try the sativa blues. Of bekijkt maar.
Russian doll. Some Russian doll that's activating us because it's 70% sativa, and I am getting really activated by smoking it.
Okay, really fast.
I should use my grinder, but I'm gonna smoke a bit Pasha with you.
Oh, he's looking nice. Huh?
It's looking nice.
Oh.
It's looking nice. Jesus, yeah, he looks like Stick Saxonhammer. Jesus is getting out of there, bitching about Trump. Jesus is bitching about Trump. Is there any other videos that can be recommended? Any other videos?
Like this?
You can recommend this video. We are streaming 34 minutes now. So we have to fill up another bullshit 20 minutes about, or maybe half hour.
Normally in Flemish I'm good at it, but now it's English. It's a whole...
a different ball game, yes, I know.
Yes. But normally I speak good English.
We will use Flemish as well if you like it,
Yeah.
if you like it.
It's a difficult language you cannot understand.
So maybe the last 20 minutes we can go in Dutch.
Like a little bit history of here is
The history.
Chinese people come to here shoot photos.
Yes. Chinese, Japanese.
On the beaches, million of people every year. No, it's I don't know, but it sucks.
I have seen a video that all the millionaires are moving to Australia and New Zealand and America and Canada, but they are leaving France and Germany and the UK. So all the lazy and bums and poor people are resting here with the migrants in Europe, and all the rich people are fucking off. That's why.
The socio-economic system, huh? The socio-economic system.
Yeah, I
it
seen
sucks, it breaks.
the cliff clip. Yes, it's in my history. So if I go to that.
All right, YouTube, did you watch Trump's speech? I did. I watched the whole thing from start to finish.
Oh wow, my sound card is really bad.
We buy it at Bekafen.
I hope my audio is still good, but the audio that's coming out of my speakers is totally fucked at the moment. So I'm gonna have to get a new one.
We have another studio also, but he isn't making.
Yeah.
We have another setup, but he isn't making.
Yeah.
Try to get the bitches out first before making. It's a safety. We have no bitches in the.
Shut up.
Shut up. Please bring the bitches.
Stick, sex, and hammer, yes.
Dirty talk over here. Just laughing.
Yeah, the last Cliff High report on SGT was really good. Yes, indeed. So I need to fix my settings. No. That needs to be this. Yes. And this needs to be yes, I got it.
How long is it on stream? We keep on streaming.
This one, eh?
Berating children, screaming at children.
You will watch it twice.
Just get lost. Just get lost.
But these truth researchers who I cited on Twitter, the great people over at Reddit and Vote and 4chan, they are not going to let this go. They will not let it go. I've said it's the biggest story right now, Cliff, behind 9/11. 9/11 Truth and Pizzagate. Two biggest stories that I think can be followed.
Yeah, I think 9/11 Truth is going to be overwhelmed because you're just looking at this from the Western-centric world. There are people all around the planet investigating this. The connections, especially between our Pedogate guys and Southeast Asia and the Caribbean, for child trafficking are going to bring in, and now you've got international people. And let me tell you, I would not want to be on the bad side of some of these guys out of Haiti because somebody crossed the line down there. I heard from a friend of mine. I've got friends in low places all around the planet. Okay,
Friends in low
just that
places.
kind of guy, right?
Yeah.
You know, we share scars together.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
anyway, but I got a friend down in Haiti, but he was telling me that somebody irritated. I guess you'd call them warlords or criminal gangs, and they've got their version of a to-be-killed fatwa out against some of the people that are involved in
Yes.
Pedogate. So see,
Gonna
it's
get
that
the
level of
pedos.
stuff coming out now. And basically, the people at the top, we're looking at empire here, and it's foolish for us as Americans in USA Pop to buy into and believe all the crap we were taught in high school, because they taught us an illusionary world where we were the good guys, we were pristine, and so on and so on. And we're as dirty as the Roman Empire. We got people up at the top of our power structure that are worse than Caligula. Caligula could take lessons from these guys, right?
That's right. But we got to stop using the word we. And I mean, I know that you
Exactly.
don't really mean we, because it's not we, it's the deep state. And, you
Yes.
know, George Webb is just
Still
moving
needs to
mountains,
wake up.
peeling that onion. I mean, he's using
Hello,
language that I've never
hello,
seen
hello.
used before. Every video I'm learning something new. I didn't know that DynCorp was running, you know, child trafficking rings around the world, and he's pointing the finger squarely at DynCorp, mentioning the name. And God bless him for doing it, because he's obviously risking his own life. And you know what? It's waking people up with facts. The
Yes.
fake media cannot defeat us when we share facts.
And there's the problem, though. You're going to run into this attitude from the captive media and their adherents, where they say, "Well, I don't want to discuss details,"
Right.
and it's like, "Well, wait a second. Details equal facts. If you're not willing to discuss facts, then I can't discuss anything with you, because you're not going to be able to change my opinion without details. And if you won't listen to them, I can't change yours. So there's really no point to continuing." And we run into this anti-dialogue kind of thing going. That our data actually shows that changing as we get through, let's say, October-ish. So we have these two big areas of chaos showing up in our data for this year. And one of them runs from March, and we're just about ready to get into it, all the way through into May. And then we have sort of a little hiatus in the chaos build through
It's going to be one whole big shit
summer,
storm coming
but
our
that's
way.
a hiatus in the chaos
So we
relative to political
bubble
and social. There's going to be all
ourselves.
kinds of
We bubble
seismic
ourselves.
activity, weather activity to give us other sorts of chaos. And then in the midst of all of that, we have this like
Go in
breakdown
the
that
positive
comes in
bubble,
September,
yes.
October, November. And during that period of time, a number of indicators in the data sets are suggesting that
Laugh
the
with everything.
narrative wars shift over. Okay, so
Why
right
does-
now
why is
we've
his
got a
name Cliff
situation
High?
where Faction
Why is his
B
name Cliff High?
defeated
High.
Faction
High.
A through this past year,
Why
and
is
we're in
his
a
name
different
Cliff
political
High?
environment. By the time we get to
Why?
the end of this
Why?
year, we'll be in a
Cliff
different
High.
narrative
Why?
environment, as
His
Faction
name.
B will have consolidated the power. Certain events will have occurred extraneous to both Faction A and B, and we'll be at a point where the narrative will be shifting over. And this is where years and years and years ago, if you've been listening to my stuff for a decade or more, you'll know that we used the term re-education camps without understanding what it was. I thought it was going to be, people like myself getting stuck into camps to be re-educated by the deep state. But the really cool part is that these long-term data sets are actually now manifesting. They're shifting into shorter-term and immediacy data. We're starting to get into more some details. And so the re-education is going to be like a re-education effort. It's tied up with this Antarctica, but it's also tied up with the Pedogate. And we could think of it as like having come through the South African experience and having to go into a truth and reconciliation period without necessarily the formal structure that they had, right? And we're going to have to go through that same truth and reconciliation, and re-education is going to be part of it, and it's going to hit the they're savvy. They're going to think they know what's going on, and the data is suggesting that they're going to be blindsided by all the stuff that's coming out about the pedophilia, the hidden deep state operations, Antarctica, space aliens, all of this kind of stuff, and they're just going to be gobsmacked.
Good. I hope that happens, because I'm still stunned by the fact that even some of the people that I listen to, other podcasters out there, some of the biggest names
That's a good
out
video
there,
from SGT.
Joe Rogan being
SGT
an example.
report
So
is
many of these
something
people,
else.
and he's more enlightened than many, but so many of these people can't see that Hillary Clinton and the deep state are the corrupting influence on our government. And they're so blinded by their hatred for Trump, not specifically Rogan, but others are so blinded by their hatred for Trump that they are, I guess, just instinctively running the other direction to Hillary, saying that everything would just be, wonderful if Hillary was the president, when you and I both know that she represents the deep state. And it's right now, I believe it's Obama, Hillary Clinton, and George Soros that are affecting what's going on right now, trying to topple Trump, trying to light the fires of impeachment to get him out of office. I mean, the point being that I hope people wake up to the fact that the deep state is real and it stands in opposition to everything we as sovereign citizens and Americans represent.
It's awful hard, though. I mean, here's our problem. You're quite correct. I like Joe Rogan. He's a great bald guy. Love his podcast, and he's a martial artist, right?
Yeah.
So this is cool. But I've noticed some things in his language. Like, for instance, he's follows the party line on global warming. It's like it's a settled science. It's a settled science. It's a settled science. We can't debate it. It's incontrovertible.
That's right.
And see, this is something that really irritates me, right? I don't care if you're Sir Isaac Newton and you've just made up some new law. The real crime you commit is not trying to foist your understanding of gravity on the rest of us, but rather making that law incontrovertible, so we can't ever discuss it thereafter. And this is where we are with Western, quote, science. It's a religion. It's not a science. These people have vested interest and all this kind of stuff pulling the strings. And it's unfortunate that even enlightened people like Joe Rogan run into this, where their minds are altered by the continual barrage of the language. And this is why taking the language back frees your mind up. This is also why I don't give Joe Rogan any grief for this, because it's a continuum. When you get into the awakening, you think, oh, well, it's just this. And then it's just that. And then you say, well, there's a hole down there. Let me stick my head in. Right. Next thing you know, your feet are wiggling in, and you're just trying to see how far down it goes. So, so he'll get there, I'm certain. One little crack breaks all the rest of it.
Well, and I should just say, I like Joe Rogan too. I think where the reason I wanted to bring him up is because he does exactly what you've said, is that he's closed-minded on certain issues like vaccines, like geoengineering, like the science is settled, when I know he's more enlightened than that. I mean, he used to question the Apollo landings, and now he's sort of come full circle on that. He said, okay, I was wrong, we went to the moon. And it's like, well, I sometimes feel like, who got to Joe? I mean, I don't think anybody got to Joe. I think he's just so successful, and he's getting, so many views that he realizes he needs to sort of come back to that centrist line just a bit, just to stay off the radar of the bad guys. That's sometimes how I feel about Joe Rogan.
I'm sure he has business issues in terms of how he guides his shows and who he deals with, but he's extremely good at it. I mean,
he's very smart. I like him a lot. I guess I should have mentioned Mark Maron as being the better example of somebody who's towing this Hillary Clinton line. Give me Hillary, anybody but Trump. And it's like, she's certainly as evil as Trump, if not 1,000 times more evil. Anyway, I digress.
Well, I think of Trump as being human. I'm not sure about these other guys.
I'm with you on that.
And humans, of course, you got to cut them slack. We screw up all the time.
No, it's absolutely true, and it is. It's a continuum. We're all learning as we go. And I've been following you for so long, and one of the things I woke up to early on was the silver story, and then I heard you talking about silver, and we know how manipulated it is. Bix Weir just did a video talking about how COMEX derivatives in 2016 were up 41%. They have to throw so much paper now at the market to cap the prices of gold and silver that it's absolutely stunning to anybody paying attention. And by the way, we should talk about Bitcoin. Because of you, I have actually purchased some Bitcoin because you have been right about very many things. And I want to give you credit, Cliff. That 888 back dip down on Bitcoin, you hit that nail on the head. But let's talk about $600 silver, which I think is what the web bots are predicting.
And we've had that since 2002, probably, and I first spoke about it on, I think it was Mysteries of the Mind radio. In 2003, there was a juxtaposition of 20,000 on the Dow, which in 2003 was absurd. Everybody thought I was crazy. I got grief for that for a decade, and I got grief for the $600 silver call. We should be at that $600. If we were to look at the Bix Weir video and just do the math that he's talking about, we should be well over 600 in silver now, maybe twice that, who knows. And so the data sets still continue to show silver with that emotional level at the 600 plus. Now, I am getting numbers that show this year we'll crack 145. We'll bust through 145
Dollar
US
went
dollars
down.
per ounce of silver in some form. We may
They
still have
really
silver at $18, and then the rest of it is
pushed it here,
premium.
eh?
I just don't
They
know how
pushed
it's
it
going to
here.
work out. It may be that we actually have an open market for the first time ever, and we scale through 145 in a matter of minutes. But that number does show up. So it'll be picked up somewhere in the media and broadcast back. That's sort of the little feedback loop we get with our data sets. And at this point, then, I'm looking at the other, and so that's sort of a temporal marker, this 20,000 Dow, $600 silver, and all of that leads us up into the big moves for Bitcoin early through next year. And we're looking there. The last number I had that was effective, I think, I actually calculated it out because the Bitcoin is coming in yuan. I have to go and do a yuan to dollar conversion. So at the time I looked, the forecast would have been something around $13,000 per Bitcoin sometime February, March-ish of next year.
50 minutes.
I actually don't think that is a stunning prediction to the degree that I've been following Bitcoin now so closely, and it appears to be, I've said in interviews, I think it could go to 10,000 as easily as zero. I mean, I think, and I don't think Bitcoin's going back to zero. There's too much interest because you notice as China clamped down on Bitcoin and the fake Bitcoin exchanges and whatever was happening there, Japan picked up the slack. So now Japan is acquiring Bitcoin hand over fist. The Japanese are, because they can see what's going on with Abe and the insanity with the yen, and the Japanese government's buying up all the stocks, and people are losing their minds because they know what's coming. What's coming is hyperinflation.
I don't think that that's it, actually. I don't think that I don't think the Japanese are seeing that. I think that what they did was that they got a copy of that Chinese white paper that was produced maybe January or February of last year. There was this white paper that came out and circulated in PBOC, and it had the most staggering plan you could ever imagine, okay? And it basically said if we, China Pop, were to take over Bitcoin and evenly distribute it, we could evenly distribute it in like 4 different ways through our social order, and in essence, empower the whole nation with a stable currency that once it reached this particular point would be so stable for decades, we wouldn't have to worry about all of these, the whipsaw actions of currencies. It'll keep us digital. You wouldn't believe it. There must have been 200 positive benefits from this plan that were listed in that white paper. And I think the Japanese are reading that, or at least someone in officialdom in Japan has read it, and they're starting to go that way. Because one of the things that that I took away from the white paper was that if they had one whole Bitcoin in each of these various regions, then each of these villages would be basically a millionaire when this particular Bitcoin reached $1 million. And that would provide the following benefit for the village, even if they never spent the Bitcoin. It would be basically as though they had $1 million worth of gold sitting there, and then one day everybody recognized it was worth $1 million, and then they could loan against it and do all this kind of stuff against it. And so the Chinese have this long term. I mean, we're talking, I think they talked about 4 or 5 year plans in there. So this is a 20-year plan.
All right, so guys, I know you can't see me, but Cliff can, and my mouth was hanging open during that. I hadn't heard that. That white paper came from the People's Bank of China?
It was written by a minor functionary in the PBOC. It was a limited circulation. I got a very badly translated copy, and then I asked the guy, and I got some of the original text. I will see if I can locate the title. I was never given the title page or the name of the author, but there was some slip-ups in there, and I think I've sussed out who the author is, but I don't want to say because they're so closed mouth about it. But I will see if I can get that translation and put it on my site or send it to you or something so that we can get it out and about.
Okay, thanks, because I just want people to know where I'm coming from on Bitcoin. As Cliff said, we're all on a continuum, and we can all learn as we go, and so I was very closed-minded about Bitcoin early on. One of the early adopters I give credit to is Brother John F., who talked about it and followed Bitcoin, even started a Bitcoin channel. But then Bix Weir kind of came on board, and Andy Hoffman opened up his mind to Bitcoin, and I'm not a stupid person, so I'm like, I'm not going to sit here in my little camp saying Bitcoin's not real money, I'm just going to be gold and silver. Expand my mind a little bit. I'll buy a little Bitcoin as a bet, as a lotto card. That's a lotto card in case it does. Look, there's only 16 million Bitcoins, I believe, in circulation right now, and they're going to be capped at all time, guys, at 25 million Bitcoins. Think of the population of China alone. I'm just saying you might want to buy a Bitcoin just to have some skin in the game.
And our data sets are so solid on Bitcoin that I've been recommending it to people every chance I got since 2012, really since late 2011 with some of my private clients, and then I just went public with it in early 2012. I accept Bitcoin on my site and deal in it whenever I possibly can. But here's the real kicker. Our data sets are insistent that Bitcoin will become so well used that we're going to invent new words for it. And so once we start altering our language for a commercial product, then I know it's ingrained into the culture. I don't know what those new words are, but we're going to have a new word for decibits and a 10th part of a Bitcoin, and then for millibits, the millionth part of a Bitcoin. So we'll have this, or excuse me, decibits. So those will be first, and then we'll get into the million parts, and it'll be slang. It'll be whatever, like give me a buck, only it'll mean, a millibit.
I want to say this too as it relates to Bitcoin. So we know the dollar is long in the tooth, and right now maybe it's the best of the worst. But between the U.S. dollar, the yen, the euro, the yuan, all fiat currencies eventually die. So Bitcoin, let's say it is left standing, and let's say that it creates all of these new millionaires, even if it's just because the dollar hyperinflates. And so whereas it used to be $1,000 to buy a Bitcoin, now it's $100,000 because the dollar is losing so much value so quickly. That's one of the reasons you want Bitcoin. It's certainly one of the reasons you want to own some silver and gold in physical form. But let me ask you this, Cliff. What is your gut feeling on Bitcoin? Do you think it was part of the plan to psychologically prepare people for a cashless society? I mean, we don't really know who created Bitcoin. Do we? Maybe we do. But I wonder if this isn't all part of the plan to move the world towards a cashless society and, frankly, get some of the people on our team cheerleading for it.
That may well be the case. That would go to intent. I just couldn't say. I do know that I'm not in the camp that thinks that Satoshi Nakamoto is a group. I read the white paper in 2009. I've read it repeatedly since. I've subjected it to my analysis. It's a single mind. Okay, that's a single voice in that white paper. The linguistics would suggest that. So, was it prompted? Was that a face, a beard on a CIA or NSA op or whatever? I don't know, but I do know this. It's not feasible for us to have a cash society dealing in species, paper and this kind of thing, off-world. Just makes no sense whatsoever. Humanity has to go off-world. We're right at that cusp. So I'm all for the cashless society. I'm all for getting rid of the little bits of paper. That's why I'm so big on Bitcoin, because I don't want the bastards controlling my money anymore, and I'm now my own central bank. I can't think of who it is that keeps saying that, get Bitcoin to be your own central bank. But one of the guys out in the free media does that, and I'll see if I can remember who it was. But that's my motto now, is that I'm my own central bank with Bitcoin, and I can take my Bitcoin and I can go and make a transaction on Jupiter when I can find that concierge up there to point me at the right place to get what I want, right? And because it'll work up there. We've got to stay digital. The technology's not going away. The idea that we're going to have a major crash and that the world is upended and that gold and silver are real money and so forth, all of that is quite accurate. But on the other side of it, it is not an old barter economy. It is not a crash back down. In my way of thinking, humanity is at the cusp, all right? I mean, I'm not bullshitting, guys. We either overcome this stuff in the next few years, say by 2029, or we're finished as a species. And I mean people will die by the billions just because the system will break down. We can overcome this. There's many different approaches to getting our way out of this situation, but it won't be by going back and trading cabbages for silver for, bullets. It's not going to be that world. It's going to be sci-fi world that's been chosen by Faction B, and they're going to put all their energy in there, and I'm with them. Okay, I'm on board on that train. We've got to get off planet. We've got to go sci-fi world. This means we've got to be smart, effective, and digital, give up a lot of our prejudices. Yes, silver and gold are money. Yes, they're going to continue to be money, but get smart and get some electronic leverage against them in the form of Bitcoin so that you can be mobile, so you can go out and interact with this world. Plus, if we're correct, those people that bought Bitcoin way back when will find that Bitcoin scales up not only because of hyperinflation, but because of true value, because it's offering more and more to the planet as the network builds out. This network effect is very powerful. So in that regard, like I say, I'm all for getting rid of cash. The convenience of just aiming your phone and sending a couple of Bitcoin is really cool. But I don't like the idea of Federal Reserve banksters, the pedo cabal trying to control us all through their form of central bank originated and controlled digital money. And I would argue that all of the efforts that you see in the banks now trying to do blockchain stuff to take over Bitcoin are failing, and it's just cool as hell. So as the banks go, we will be left with gold, silver, Bitcoin, and us guys trying to do business, and the banks out of the way.
Yes.
Good. Well, thank God, because the banks are at the heart of all evil. And, I've said it for a very long time, the 1988 cover of the Rothschild's Economist magazine, in which the phoenix was rising from a burning pile of fiat, and around the phoenix's neck was a gold medallion, said 2018, and the cover of the magazine said, get ready for a world currency. That was a 30-year prediction. We're a year away, and I hope to God that their plan is failing. I really do. I hope that the Rothschilds frankly get called out for the criminals they are, and the whole lot of the bankers. You guys all know that story. So here's why I love Cliff. He mentioned going off-world. I'm looking at my notes that I wrote down prior to this conversation. I wrote down Breakaway Civilization, and I wrote down Deagle.com. So as far as Depop goes, do you want to address the Deagle.com prediction that I guess in the next 10 years, Deagle.com is suggesting there could be a 60 to 80% decline in the American population, in the United States population. I don't know if that's Fukushima related. I don't know if it's World War III related. I don't know if it's made out of whole cloth. But as we talk about beating these guys, either humanity rises or humanity gets defeated. We should, I think, address the depopulation issue, and then we'll move on to the breakaway civilization and moving off-world.
Okay, the depopulation thing, we face a number of, as a species, we face a number of threats that could indeed cause major die-offs. We also, though, have to address the idea of the meme of depopulation, because I've never bought the idea that the powers that be want to get rid of humans. I never bought the idea of the Georgia Guidestones, keep your population under 500 million. I think that was a psyop. Because it disinfo, because it doesn't do them any good. They need more of us to keep building the base of the power pyramid to keep them up on top.
But we know eugenics is real. We know that the chemical delivery systems through vaccines is real. We know that the GMO foods poisoning us is real. So
those may not be depopulation agendas. Okay,
maybe they're dumbing down agendas.
Correct. Okay, because there is truly a thought on their part, on the part of the pedo elite, that they are superior to us, and this comes from the fact that they think that they are descendant from these beings with the long heads, okay, that were the pharaohs and came on down during that period of time. And basically what happened was there was this war in our solar system. Earth got smashed really bad. We humans were not really part of that war. We're a slave species that was working for the people that were involved in that war. Those individuals that were down here controlling things lived in what we call Northern Africa up through India. That area was destroyed, converted to dust and radioactive rubble. And thereafter, the remnants of those people, of that species, some of them fell to earth. Okay, this is where we get the fallen angels business, right? All of that sort of thing. And much of our religion comes from this idea. This war caused these beings to come down here. They had to try and survive. They were much larger than us. Some of them were extremely larger. Some of them were cannibalistic in that sense, treated us as their food source. We have all of these issues with them. Some of them even interbred with us, okay? And we even have in the 1800s, we have, I've seen it in Europe. When I would go through, my parents hauled me to every damn art museum you can imagine in Europe to give me culture, right? And so you'd go to some of these art museums and some of these places in Italy and so on, and you'd see pictures, paintings of the leaders of these city-states. And these men and women had elongated skulls with virtually no hair on them. And they wore some funny-looking little hats, but the artist portrayed them with the elongated skulls. And this was, Queen so-and-so, Princess so-and-so. Usually it was shown in the females. The males would have some kind of a wig on, bad wig, but they had these weird elongated skulls. So all of the people that are in the elite, all the way from the Queen Elizabeth, the baby-eating British royals, all of these people, they think that they are part of the descendants from these other beings and therefore are superior to us, the regular humans. Now, the regular humans at the time that disaster took place, the big war, we were beset by all these giants that caused us all kinds of problems. Now we're at that point where we've bred enough that we're able to provide these descendants with their ultimate holy grail. Their ultimate imagining was that they could get a big enough population underneath them to get them back into space, get them back into the off-world reality that they're so desperate to get back into. That was sent, they were basically defeated in a war, and now they're going to rise up from the ashes, so to speak. Now these guys, the power elite, they don't have 100% knowledge of what was really going on, but they sure know a lot more than we do. So what you've just heard is a stitched together account that's has to be extracted from all different kinds of sources because they don't tell us this sort of thing.
Right.
But we're in for it this year. That kind of stuff is all coming to a head this year.
Right. Okay. Well, I think that ties back into Pizzagate, and I've made the tie-in to the vampiric bloodlines going all the way back. Well, going back, centuries, but citing Elizabeth Bathory specifically, who loved to bathe in the blood of virgins, believing it gave her youth, and Prince Charles being related to Vlad the Impaler. I mean, it's this vampiric bloodline.
And guess who is in charge of the companies that are now offering, except in the U.S., I don't think it's offered here, but in some places in Europe, you can go and buy teenager blood. And you go and you get an infusion of blood from specifically chosen teenagers to give you that big power thing. And George Soros apparently has this stuff just, stacked in his freezer. That kind of a deal. And if you'll look at those companies, it will lead you right back to the royals. It'll lead you right back to Italian royals and British royals. They own these firms. And so the question has to be asked, since they're already pedos, where are they getting the blood?
My God, it reminds me of George Webb's work and human trafficking and all these people disappearing. And again, Pizzagate, all roads lead to Pizzagate, guys. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Prince Charles wanted Jimmy Savile to be the godfather to his sons. Jimmy Savile was a known pedophile at the BBC for decades and decades and decades, a necrophiliac, and all his crimes were covered up. And he was close friends with Prince Charles. He was knighted by the Queen. So when we talk about vampiric bloodlines and these people being, pedophiles, that's not just conjecture. It's just hardcore fact, and it needs to be talked about. Okay, so the breakaway civilization going off-world. I mean, where do we even begin? I mean, you know as well as I do that these people have the technology to go off-world because supposedly they sent men to the moon on a computer that would have filled my house.
More coffee, yes.
The computing power smaller than what I have on an iPhone. So where is all the technology? We can get an iPhone in our pocket now, and the world is at our fingertips in terms of information, but we're all still burning petrol to drive around in automobiles?
That's starting to change, though. They're doing a sneaky thing here, okay? I've been following this ever since I got wind of what is called the Federal Register, which is this large book of contracts and stuff the federal government keeps. And I went looking through it and discovered reverse engineering contracts, all different kinds of cool stuff. But they're starting to do some weird disclosure, a strange form of disclosure now, okay? In the sense that I've seen from the outside all kinds of new devices that, just like the transistor, just like the printed circuit, just like fiber optics, are being introduced into our society. So not to take anything away from the inventors of any of these devices, right? But we're getting hit by all kinds of, let's call them the machining tools of the new age, okay, of the new sci-fi world. Because when you're making cars, before you can build a car, you've got to have a tool to machine the steel. And so that tool has to be a lot tougher than the steel you got to work on. And it's got to be a lot more precise and so on, because it's going to lose a level of precision making a lot of parts. And so we're getting into that level of machine tools for the sci-fi world. So we've got quantum computers coming on out now. We've got all different kinds of material science devices.
3D printers.
Exactly. Well, even beyond that, we now have machines at a manufacturing level that will allow you to design the plastics down to the molecular level that will go into your 3D printer. So if you needed to infuse aluminum into them, you could do that, this kind of thing, right? I mean, we're talking some really spectacular new kinds of devices coming on in. We're talking about devices where it will lead to, in our reports, the ability to stick a couple of probes into a hole in the ground in your mind and tune in some frequency and cause all of the silver in that particular ore to decide it wanted to liquefy right then and run out through the little channel you dug into the waiting mold you've got. Okay, we're talking frequency engineering. These kind of weird things are starting to come in from the outside. You and I sitting here as consumers, if we don't work in these environments, we're not ever going to see these machines. The people that work in the machines in these environments, just regular guys, going to work every day. The company buys a new machine, they start working it and using it. They have no idea that it's this gradual infusion into our society of all of this space age technology that they've been reverse engineering from space aliens in the deep holes, and they're now deciding they've got to get into our social order. And so I'm seeing that there's new science kind of devices, new high-end, high-tech devices that are coming in now that are functionally as revolutionary as those devices that were used to make printed circuit boards and computer chips. Fab plants is what they're called,
Yeah, cool. Well, Trump has hinted, I think, at some of this. And, we have in the historical record comments from people, like, for instance, Ben Rich at Lockheed Skunk Works, actually, the head of Lockheed Skunk Works, before he died, he said, anything you can imagine we already know how to do. We have the technology to take ET home. I don't know how much of that is true, but, let's say the TR-3B or the TR-4B or these triangular crafts people are seeing all over the planet are of terrestrial origin. What are the chances that they're going to free up that information for humanity? Or do they prefer to enslave humanity and they will continue to go off-world, as I suppose they already have, without us?
Yeah, the latter is their plan, okay? That's why we've got this weird situation with the Faction A, Faction B, the Clintons losing and the pedo camp losing and Trump coming in. I think that there's something that's motivating that battle beyond simply business as usual considerations. I think there's something outside the system that has got them very, very upset, and people decided they've got to do it now just to survive. But insofar as releasing the triangular jobs, those floaty ships in the sky, I see those. I've got 3D or third generation goggles, and I see them at night up there doing their work a couple hundred miles off planet. Now we're starting to get hints in our data sets that we've had it for, I guess, several months, maybe 7 or 8 months. We've had these little snippets coming into the Space Go Fart section about invisible craft that will just be basically hovering and stuff in our atmosphere going on. And so we're going to probably, a lot of them will show up as, a rain cloud comes on, drops rain, and thus shows you the shape of the craft that's been sitting up there watching you gardening for the last 5 hours, that kind of thing. But will they release them? They don't want to, and I know why they don't want to. We see that in the language all the time. The powers that be are very much afraid because the technology of sci-fi world, even at its most crude, is an extremely leveling technology. So for instance, if I've got a floaty triangular TR-3B or whatever it is, and I wanted to decide to float on over and drop watermelons in disgust on the Queen, nothing's stopping me, right? I can just get a bunch of watermelons from Georgia, go truck on over to Britain, take me a couple of hours and sit up there and drop watermelons on Buckingham Palace to show my disgust at them. That's very much their issue, is the fact that these things can be weaponized. And that's an extremely crude form of the weaponization, right? So it is a great leveler because in their fear is, and they realize this, that the technology floats us up to their level, so to speak, right? It's the thing that separates us. Now, that never used to be the way it was. In the past, their progenitors of the space alien infused human line within our species, actually these people, because of their skulls and the stuff that was going on, it would be very appropriate to speculate that they had mental powers that would allow them to deal with the local indigenous people, meaning us, the primates, and be able to control us simply through their mental powers. And then over time, as they were trapped here, their mental powers waned because their genetics were no longer pure, their breeding stock, they had to breed with humans, and it started going down. And so now these people, the descendants of the elongated skulls, today, the kings and queens of the royalty world and all of our royalty and in our corporatocracy, they still believe that they're part of this as well. These guys don't have those powers anymore. The only thing they have separating us from them is technology. So they're desperately afraid of that being lost.
Okay. All right. Well, that makes perfect sense. The technology is too powerful to let the common man access it, so the technology will instead be used to further enslave humanity and control us. I think that makes perfect sense. Now, before we let you go, you've been very generous with your time. I just wanted to ask you about the UFO question and flush it out just a little bit further. Is there anything in the data set that suggests that some of these UFOs are of a satanic influence and that there is some sort of satanic deception. We already know that these people we've talked about, the elite at the highest levels, are into victimizing children and human sacrifice, and these Illuminati, these vampiric bloodlines, they're into very bad stuff. I found in my research, Cliff, that at the very highest level, I believe a lot of these people are indeed Luciferians. So if they have somehow harnessed the power of evil and made a deal with the devil, so to speak, is there a chance that there is a UFO deception of which we should be aware as it pertains to Project Bluebeam or just the UFO question in general? How many of them are spiritual, in orientation versus terrestrial? Right. Or how many of them are just actually off-world, civilizations visiting us? I don't know. The question needs to be asked, because in my camp, when I do these videos, I have people, there's a very polarizing issue. There's some people that believe it's all a satanic deception and that there are no UFOs, and others believe that we're absolutely being visited by off-world species. And then there's the question of how many of them are of terrestrial origin.
I know that there are some of terrestrial origin. I suspect that I have reason to state that I think we've been visited by off-world guys, and I think I've seen some of their ships, just because those ships are not like anything I would think a human would build. I mean, they strike you as alien. The satanic stuff is interesting, okay, because that's really a mind filter. So you're going to have a lot of people that in their own mind see the world based on the idea of God, and therefore the anti-God, because it's all duality, right? Every single god has an anti-god. You'll notice that throughout history. There's never, with the exception of the Gnosis, okay, what were those people called? I can't think of it. Hypatia was one of their people. They had the idea of basically like the Jain religion, where there's a non-form energy that you can basically call God. There's no anti-God in those religions, but all the other religions have some form of an anti-God, an antichrist, this kind of thing, right? And so that speaks explicitly to the filters of the people that are bringing that up. So I'm never ever going to say that all UFOs are part of a Luciferian plot. I know that these people that believe in the Lucifer-Christ dichotomy, and that those people that are part of either side of that, I know that they see a lot of the UFO things, the unidentified aerial phenomenon, as being demonic and so on. That does not mean that they are. Now, the people that are reverse engineering the spaceships and building these things are under the control of this group that we acknowledge are pedophiles, vampiric, energy-sucking, and human flesh-consuming, and indeed are, how do I say that? They're looking for the Luciferian part of it. They think they're making a deal with an entity that is pan-dimensional or whatever. So whatever their delusion is, they're acting on it as though it were real. But I don't accept that it's real. Just as I don't accept that the Christian filter is real in that sense. Yes, they believe it. Yes, it's real to them. But my vision is larger, so I'm outside that. I can see a little bit more, right? And so I'm not bound by that vision. Now, I know that the manifestations that we're seeing in the skies, these unidentified aerial phenomenon, include things that we would not classify as a spaceship. It's got no rivets, it's not welded or any of that kind of stuff. I also know that it does include those things that we've riveted and welded together. But I'm of the opinion that the things that are not are welded ships. So we're looking at a duality. We have the stuff we've built, and then we have the stuff that we haven't built, some of which resembles our stuff, but other stuff is like probably some form of a nano skin kind of a technology. Others, it's probably energetic, and you're inside an energy bubble and you've got some kind of a control, that sort of a thing. But it comes down to this. There's this weird movie, Men Who Stare at Goats, okay? In that movie, they talk about all of the consciousness field stuff, consciousness science. They're talking as remote viewing and all these other kinds of things. They made that movie to denigrate and bring humorous focus on a very serious subject for the military. The military does this stuff continuously. They've been doing it since the 60s. They never gave it up. And some of their people have retired, some of the people that were in that deep, dark world. I know some of these people. I've talked to a few of them. One of the guys that is retired from that world is this fellow that all the others in that world really respect. His name's Lynn Buchanan. Lynn Buchanan has a phrase that really struck me or a saying that's really brilliant in my estimate for this particular situation, because here's what he's done. He says, you don't want to think about UFOs, you don't want to think about space aliens the way we've been doing it. What you do is you want to think about things in an entirely different viewpoint. You want to draw a line and say, here is humanity, and we are this psychic. And all other beings, and yes, there are space aliens, and yes, we're involved with them. And you can call them interdimensional, doesn't, the label is immaterial, but we're dealing with beings that are either more psychic than humans or less psychic than humans. Of those that are less psychic than humans, there are those that are just friendly, nice guys, and then there are those that are nasty fellows. The nasty fellows that are less psychic than us, they don't show up here, okay? Occasionally we get the ones that are less psychic than us and that are friendly, just out touristing, they come through. Now, you got those aliens that are more psychic than us, and of those you have those that don't like us at all and want us dead, want to get rid of us, all right? These guys are more psychic than us at this moment, is Lynn's estimation. Okay, you've got the others that are more psychic than us that like us, and they are more psychic than us at this moment. And it's that at this moment that's the key, because we don't know our own psychic power. And so as a result of that, you have some of these space aliens that are much more psychic than us that are just itching to get us out of this slump and get us clued into consciousness science, because they know we'll just be a huge kick-ass force out in the universe and they can use the help. You got the other ones that are more psychic than us at this moment that don't like us a bit because of that same reason.
Wow. All right, well, that's some serious woo, but I think it all is important to the conversation as it relates to what's really going on. And, Cliff, as I've done my research, my spiritual faith has been really increased because of, and I just want to quote Ephesians 6:12, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. And there's absolutely no better example of that than the Pizzagate, Pedagate issue. And I really would like to think that I'm not bound by the constraints of dogma when I've come to the conclusion that these people really are Luciferians and they worship a dark power, and I'm aligned with the light and Jesus Christ in the story of Christianity. And we can all have differing opinions. None of us have to believe the same thing, but at the end of the day, I want people to know that our enemies definitely believe in a dark power. They worship that power, and they believe that dark power gives them extreme power in their own right in this world, in this realm. And those are the people we need to defeat. That's why Pizzagate's so important. And a little bit of a rant there, Cliff. But,
no, that's fine.
I'll give you the last word.
Let's Procter and Gamble. Procter and Gamble.
Procter and Gamble, PG, Pizzagate. I love it.
Yep.
All right. Well, Cliff, I've been following you for so very long. We very much appreciate you and your work. Everybody can check you out at halfpasthuman.com. Can you tell people about the best way to support you? Is the best way to support you to come over and buy an Alta report?
Yeah, if they're up for it, okay. You got to understand it's very dense. It's difficult to read sometimes because I have to describe the language that's coming in. I don't just write out the language that's coming in. Yes. That would be like prophecy. What I'm doing is showing you my methodology. So the best way you can support us would be to, watch the videos of all the free media guys and get those AdSense revenues pouring into these people. And then come on over and buy a report if you're of a mind for it. But bear in mind, it's not necessarily fun reading.
For review
and your YouTube channel's absolutely taken off. Like your Google videos, 37,000 hits already, and congratulations on that. It just goes to show that people know you're the real McCoy. You have a nature about yourself that is so amiable and warm, and that's what people love about you, Cliff. I mean, it's easy to tell who the truth tellers are because their tree bears fruit, and you're one of the truth tellers, and I really do thank you so much for being a truth teller. Thanks for all you do.
Well, thank you much. I mean, for noticing. I really do try my damnedest.
Yeah, I know you do. Well, guys, if you've enjoyed this conversation as much as I have, please hit the like button and share it within your own sphere of influence. Cliff High, you can visit him at halfpasthuman.com and subscribe to his YouTube channel, which I believe is Cliff High, right?
Correct.
Cliff High on YouTube. Cliff High has been our guest. Cliff, thanks so much.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been cool.
It's been so cool. And guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We very much appreciate your support at sgtreport.com. Check us out at thephaser.com and thelibertymill.com. Real news 24/7. God bless each and every one of you. All right. Bye-bye.
We've been run over by this Freemasonic satanic cabal, which is behind all these scandals, the pedophilia. During this darkness, the devils and wicked will take on the most hideous shapes, and all those who even go to look outside will be killed because of fright. Okay, that's what we're building towards. That's what they're working on.
So we can go over to the guitar now if we want. So we keep on chilling. So anyhow, yes, isolator, yes. Oh, when you can isolate long time, it goes good as well. So when you have a big block of ice, when it's freezing outside, you can get a big block of ice, and that's what I did. And I have a nice big chunk of isolator. That's viewable in one of my Sativa Blues videos. Woohoo! I do like some bud when I pull isolator. I don't use leaves anymore just to isolate. I don't think it's worth it, worth the hassle to isolate just leaves. I like to isolate buds, a bit of fluffy buds when you have them in your grow. Fluffy buds mostly. And of course the trimmings of your buds you need to isolate, yes. The trimmings so I do have some trimmings still on these buds, as you can see, and if I don't smoke them, I collect them in a jar of tobacco, and then I pull isolator from these leaves here, and that's good for isolator, the trimmings. But leaves, just leaves, fan leaves, no. With the fan leaves you can make tea, that's about it. Fan leaves for tea, buds for smoking. Fan leaves for tea and CBD, buds for THC. Like to get high all day long and mess about on my screen. This time is on and we go crazy. What the hell has been done? Don't say just maybe I'm down. Yeah, I'm down with about everyone. Growing and smoking and growing and smoking some more. That's about it. Yes. So I guess I'm gonna put on another video and roll another joint, make some more coffee, and maybe make it a 2-hour stream, I don't know. I can also go outside and do some shit. Anyhow, I'm gonna check my subscriptions. What to say about the subscriptions? Pension, Tsunami, Microscope Control. Oh, I'm on the Sativa Blues channel, and I have two extra subscribers. On let's listen to Gerald Salente.
Now,
Yes.
joining us for the balance of the hour is
a song?
Gerald Salente of trendsresearch.com. He needs no
song,
introduction here.
yeah.
And I've got a lot of questions I want to ask.
Press pause and do a Nirvana or a Doors song. Yes? A Nirvana or a Doors song. Let's think of a Nirvana song. Maybe is okay. What's it called again? Oh Me, I guess. No, I don't know. It's the one from the Unplugged CD, the Meat Puppets. If I had to lose a mind, if I had a touch feeling, I would lose my soul the way I do. I don't have to think, I only have to do it. Results are always perfect, and that's on you. And I'm playing on my own version. If I had to lose a mind, if I had a touch feeling, I would lose myself the way I do. I don't have to think, I only have to do it. Results are always perfect, and that's on you. I can see my whole demise relies on thee and fall into infinity that's deep inside me. Oh. Like that. If I had to lose a mind, if I had a touch feeling, I would lose my soul the way I do. I don't have to think, I only have to do it. Results are always yes. What's it called? Is it Oh Me or is it another song? I think it's Oh Me, yeah. And I need to roll so much more joints in my life. Yes, I'm gonna listen to Gerald Salente.
Up front about the economy, where he sees it going, where he sees the attempts to cause civil wars going. Even AFP admits that's the attempt happening in France right now as people fight back against globalism. So we're going to cover some of that. But Gerald, what else do you want to break down? What else are you looking at in new trends and developments?
Well, just what you were talking about, the vaccines and the drugs and how, the whole industry is really killing people, and the products that you have on InfoWars that help people in whole health healing are really what people should be focusing on as they see the sham on the other end. There was a drug, I'm not sure of the name of it, it was in the late 1980s, up into the mid 1990s, late 90s, that they were recommending that women take as they were going into menopause. And then anybody that came out against it, like yourself or any others, was attacked by the media. And of course, the media is owned by the corporations. And I think it was progesterone or named something similar to that. And what they found out is that as they were pumping this stuff into women, it was causing cancer. But this is going on for decades. And anybody that came out against it was attacked.
Sure, it was estrogen.
Estrogen, that was it. Thank you. And that's what's going on with this whole vaccination craze. It's merely there to make Big Pharma richer. And the politicians, I mean, I worked up in Albany. I was the assistant to the Secretary of the New York State Senate and was in the political scene for many years. You don't need a lot of dough to buy these clowns off. They like to call them campaign contributions. Adults call them bribes and payoffs. So now you were talking also, and all things connected, what was going on in France. Let's just stay on the drug issue for a while and what they're forcing parents to do in this country by forcing the children to get vaccinated when they go into school. Well, you know, over there in Italy right now, a new party, the Five-Star Movement, Cinque Stelle, you know what they're fighting against? Forced vaccination of kids, while everybody else in this country is shoot 'em up, shoot 'em up.
Notice that Trump puts Robert F. Kennedy Jr. at the head of this commission, says that he has questions about vaccines, obviously an issue reportedly that hadn't really been reported on with Barron, that Barron's basically recovered from, thank God, but expanding on that. And then he has Robert De Niro, part of the commission. We asked De Niro a week and a half ago if he appreciated Trump doing that, and he basically, said no. I don't like Donald Trump. To me, that's like a big fat baby who runs around saying he wants to beat up Trump, with all this made-up stuff. And I'm not trying to bash Robert De Niro. It's just that if you really look at what Trump's really doing, he really is, I'm sorry, on almost every front, really trying to deliver to the people. So I want to ask you about that. Consumer confidence soars to 15-year high. We've got mom and pop investors are behind the historic market rally. Bloomberg has to admit that. Meanwhile, Trump, trying to get our power prices down, trying to get, claw back some of the corporate income tax. Everything I see Trump doing is common sense, not making you get Obamacare, signing an executive order so the IRS can't give you a $5,000 fine. But hardly any of that ever hits the news. We just hear that he's this horrible, racist, evil person. I know you're a political atheist, don't like both parties. Well, it seems like Trump is running him over as against both parties. He has both parties against him. He has the establishment against him, the big banks against him, and then all these so-called liberals
it's a big fight.
run around claiming he's the establishment. What do you think, Gerald?
Well, he's not the establishment at all. And the reason the markets are going up is because of, again, the things that you mentioned, consumer confidence, small business confidence is that it took its biggest spike since 1980. That's when Ronald Reagan got elected. That was after stagflation and Jimmy Loser Carter. The guy that gave us, by the way, the Mujahideen that then became Al-Qaeda that everybody forgets about. And also the guy, remember the Iran hostage crisis. So after that, Reagan comes in, boom, the economy zaps. That's the same emotion.
Nice.
Because now the business of America is business.
I hope I still have some coffee more
and the business of America
in my can.
Since Clinton, really. I mean, he was the Iraq War, the Yugoslav War, the Bosnian War. And then he was bombing Iraq 3 times a week. And then Bush comes in with the war on terror, Afghan, Iraq War. Obama keeps them going. And now we have someone that talks about business first. And what happened yesterday? They brought in Wilbur Ross as the Commerce Secretary, who was finally okayed as the cabinet position. You like Wilbur Ross? Do you think he's a ruthless business guy? Maybe. But guess what? If he's going to work on behalf of we the people in renegotiating these lousy trade deals, and they are terrible trade deals, And I'll make that really clear just to put some facts.
Let's be clear. I mean, they admit our government has sold America out. That's their business, is doing lousy trade deals to make sure they get positions for themselves and their wives and their families on the corporate boards of the Chinese, Indian, Mexican, and 160 other countries. Our literal wealth, as you know, in the 1960s was more than half the global GDP. Now we're way below that. We have been sold out. So all Trump's got to do is take the globalist foot off our neck, and we're going to explode, aren't we?
That's exactly it. And that's why the markets are going up. And again, as you know, I'm a political atheist. When Trump got in, and it's on, in fact, it's in writing, it's in our broadcasts, 5 days afterwards, and I saw the market going up, we did a 180 on our economic.
You said, I'm going from being very negative, which they admitted global depression basically this year. That was admitted. That you were saying now we're boom. And that's my next question for you, because you were right. You know, who thought when 50 billion had come in the first few days, it'd be, 2 trillion, 300 billion or whatever it is now. You probably have that number. You're always on top of those numbers. Gerald Celente, trends forecaster, what do you make then of Bloomberg, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, all bad-mouthing the market, saying it's over, death spiral, implosion. I have those headlines here today, doing everything they can to suppress it because they want a controlled market, even though they've made huge profits because of what Trump's done. They want full control. And so who will be successful? Because Ron Paul was almost a month ago. He's a smart economist, as you know, from the von Mises Institute. And he says, that he thinks it could be too little too late. He said what Trump's doing is wonderful. Oh, yes. He doesn't usually get praise, but he said globally we're facing something so big, he doesn't know if it can be staved off.
Pepsi?
So a lot of people are rooting for Trump to fail. A lot of people in the streets are.
Even.
They hate him so much they have no idea he's actually trying to save their butt. So what do you make of that? And will Trump be successful, or is it really up to us to make sure he's successful?
Now, he'll be successful, again, going to a guy like Wilbur Ross. Now, just to put this into perspective, when I say the trade deals are lousy, because I'm not making this up, there was a thing called the chicken tax. And what happened back in the 1960s is that the United States was dumping a lot of cheap poultry into Europe,
Yes.
particularly Germany.
Where are those
In
days from me that I did
Germany
that?
raised
That's been a
the
long time.
import
I
tax as a
think
chicken coming in. LBJ,
what's good to
President
use when you
Johnson
don't have
put
a
on
pick
chicken
around
tax.
is
If you're
the
gonna
clip
bring
from a
Volkswagens into the United States,
can of
particularly
Coke
those
or a can of Pepsi
van-sized
or a
ones,
can of
little
Fanta.
buses,
That's
we're
good
going
to
put
use for a
a
pick.
23% tax on all of them. And they did.
And he
And
was
that
smart. He
tax-
picked a hot item that was the best-selling car that year. I remember reading about that. And he said, I'm gonna put a tax on it.
And did it stop Volkswagens from bringing them in?
No.
No. And what happened? Then they kept that tax on until Slimer, Slick Willie sellout Clinton, that miserable little boy of a nothing with a bad attitude and a lot of lies and blood on his hands, brought us NAFTA. And Al Gore, that all those liberals love, they forgot about that debate with Ross Perot, didn't they? When he warned of the great sucking sound of our jobs leaving the
Boy, was
country.
Ross Perot not proven absolutely dead on.
So you can have these tariffs, they're not a dirty word. The only thing that free trade has given, it's not fair trade, it's slave trade.
It is. It's a giant sucking sound of the lowest common denominator that is Chinese slaves in literal death camps. We cannot compete with that. It's a giant sucking sound to the lowest common denominator. And you make one-sided deals, you get screwed over. We've seen what happens. And so Trump is individually, as you know, renegotiating each deal. And every day, major industries are coming back. This is incredible. Then I heard Nancy Pelosi on ABC News last night saying he hasn't done one thing for jobs. She said, quote, one thing. I mean, what planet is she living on?
What are you, Nancy Pelosi or Minnie Mouse? I mean, who are you talking about? I mean, what is she? I mean, there's another one, born on third base and thought she hit a home run. Her old man was in the business of a politician, and she just found her way in there. What has Nancy Pelosi ever done? Any of them? Pelosi, not so
By the way, she looks completely insane. You always talk about how Alex is not too conspiratorial. It's all out in the open. They're a bunch of losers who are, just handed everything. White shoe boys, as you said, silver spoon, all of it. I watch Pelosi, people like Waters. I'm sure you've seen her in press conferences where they say George W. Bush is still president in the same press conference and that Putin and Trump invaded Korea. She doesn't even say North or South Korea. These people are completely out of
their
mind.
Same puppet show all over again.
How about look her up on YouTube? I guarantee
they should just
Donald
not
Trump
pay
is
any
not gonna be
attention
president
anymore
of the
to all
United
those
States.
media whores
You remember her
and
saying that, how
high
many
state
times?
people.
So again,
They
going
should
back
just
to the
focus
whole
on the
crew
citizens.
and putting the whole picture together.
They have
It's
to
not only
focus
the
on the
Democrats.
citizens and
I mean,
not
it's little
anymore on the
Paulie
mainstream.
Ryan.
Oh, he's the worst.
Yeah, what was he, Eddie Munster before this? So I'm saying there's no one there.
I agree. So I mean, I think they won't stop the rally, at least here, because we're the best
You
position.
can bitch about
the
mainstream
the
all
best,
you want
worst house in a
for
bad
how long
neighborhood.
you still want, but
if you
at the
expand
point
on
you
that,
have
then
to
we'll come back
admit
and
that they are
elaborate.
dead.
Gerald
And
Clemente
you have
here.
to forget about them.
How does it go then? Because the
Mainstream is
polls
dead.
show everybody hates what the
So
Democrats
stop
are
talking
doing,
about
at least the
mainstream,
majority. Trump's getting more popular, even in skewed polls. It's blowing up in their face.
What's
Prosperity's
popular?
coming back. What are they going
There's
to
a lot
do
popular.
as it
There's
dawns
lots
on them?
popular.
And what is Trump doing, letting them in hundreds of newspapers every week saying kill him?
But
I mean, I've never
truth
seen a
and
bunch of
truth
wimps
bombs.
like this going around looking for a fight.
Yeah.
Well, again, you mentioned De Niro. To me, he's a little low life nothing. He doesn't live far from over here. Maybe he wants to come and punch me in the face, because I think he's a low life. I don't like these little Italian boys, or partially Italian, that keep promoting lousy mafia movies.
So the
I
night
don't
is
like
kicking
these
in,
kinda
the
guys.
evening is kicking in.
So anyway, he's just a fat mouth. And when you talked about his child having autism, and then
Yes,
you
so
remember
you have
he
to
pulled that
go on
movie
YouTube
out of the
to find
Tribeca
out
Film
and
Festival.
do your own
Because-
research
Because maybe
all
the
the
guy
time.
that talks tough has a little pair of cojones smaller than a mothball. Because only a little boy would be a coward to pull those moves.
You're on a roll, Gerald. Let's come back and talk about that. He won't even thank Trump for trying to put him in a commission to help kids. It's just exactly. And we thought he was going to lose money in that event is when he pulled it. So I guess money's
I've
more
seen
important than this kid. I don't want to bash De Niro, but it is true.
Nothing. Webbot hit Gold Rush in California. Yeah, okay. Do you have any recommendations of truth bombs? Truth bombs or more music or requests? I'm gonna do a Johnny Cash song. Johnny Cash. Ja, I've seen Steel. He knows what Trump must do. He must make a Twitter, and instead of tweeting, he must trumpet. Shit like that. You should see the interview with Greg Hunter as well. The Greg Hunter interview is very good. Love is a burning thing. It makes a fiery ring. Bound by wild desire, I fell into a ring of fire. I fell into a burning ring of fire. I went down, 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 and the flames went higher. And it burns, burns, burns. The ring of fire, the ring of fire. The taste of love is sweet when hearts like ours meet. I fell for you like a child, though the fire went wild. I fell into a burning ring of fire. I went down, 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 and the flames went higher. And it burns, burns, burns. Yes, man. Yes, man. End times. End times. Make the most of it. Enjoy practicing guitar. Enjoy playing guitar and singing along while you have a smoke. It's the best thing in the world after you had sex for a long time. Because sex is also good for making music. But yeah, you can't have it all. So after sex and things like that and love, blah blah blah, smoke is good for relaxing music making. So when you had your experiences with the other sex, you do have a good incentive and basis for good love songs and shit like that. If you never knew love, then it's pretty hard, I can imagine. Connection between Benghazi and Pizzagate. We are nearing the 2-hour mark stream, so I guess a 2-hour stream will be very long, and I guess that's a long video. Nice, nice. I like to see more pictures. Good, good, good. So I guess I better get to some food in me as well, because I haven't eaten a lot today. The Microscope cam was in early this morning, so I guess I have a great butt checker. And I'll definitely go on fresh butts to check for trichomes. Nice, nice. Gonna have to get used to the handling of it. Jackie White and Jimmy Fallon. I'll mostly have to check out new music. I know I have to check out new music. I don't oftenly check out new music. But I'm gonna finish up the stream with one more song. And a bit of puffing first. Great song, eh? Yeah, Nirvana. This year he will be dead 22 years. Or 32. 22. He'll be dead 22 years. 1994, so 2017. I don't know. I can't calculate at the moment. It's too hard. I guess time is broken for the moment. Time doesn't exist anymore. Especially because I turned 40 this year. Time has to stop. Yes. Yes, 23 years. Yes. Was I in yeah, I won't recollect that time. It's too fucking deep and dark that time. 16 years old, I guess I was. Yes. Damn it. Crazy we get old, yes. Old and still smoking like a chimney. If we get to 60, we will be happy. So I guess I better finish up my joint and finish up this stream for now. I could continue streaming, it's nice chilling out. But I don't really have anything better to do at the moment, but I can do shit. Yes, other times. And I still stuck in the 90s for some reason, some part. I got the small dishes to do, that's about all. I do need to vacuum a bit. I should vacuum a bit, yes. And it's, what are we today? Wednesday, yes. Yes, we are Wednesday, so we're gonna continue streaming tonight maybe. I don't know. Do connect to Sativa Blues. There's a nice video out of Sativa Blues. And some people subscribed immediately when they saw the video, so I guess I need to continue on my path and just be who I am. And get more exciting as we move along. So if you feel like sharing with the right people, with the right mindset, who go to this stream and have the right mind to go along in life and say bullshit to it all, I don't give a fuck anymore. I just give about weed and smoking and being free in a free world and a free trade and free no censorship and shit like that, you know, the real deal. We are amongst ourselves morally educated enough and shit like that to know what the truth is and how you should conduct in life. So anyway, thanks for watching and have another smoke. Wednesday the 1st, a day to remember with the microscope cam. It's gotten loose today, so we will continue. Thanks for watching, and I am going to do my chores because I've been really lazy today, and it's 4 o'clock. I haven't done fuck. Too much fun today, yes. Check you later.